To the question, can ethics play a role? Why don't you consider the possibility that ethics, some people think, may not play a role? That's what we discussed, right? Isn't it? What is the limitation in applying ethics to international relations? Deepti, what's your answer?
Both sides may not take an equal stand on ethics.
Both
it may not be helpful for domestic politics also.
It may not be helpful to the
domestic politics.
Domestic politics.
It may.
Okay.
Yes,
it may not be helpful to the domestic politics. Okay. But even if a prime minister or a government is very genuine, okay, can he think that he would follow ethical principles in settling disputes? Or is it that there are certain limitations? What did we discuss?
Self-interest has to guide, usually guides foreign policy.
Why? Why should self-interest guide foreign policy? Deepti, did you follow those videos?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thucydides. Okay. And then complex realism.
Yes, sir.
So what is that realism then? Why do people say that ethical principles don't play a role? Why they say that what matters is power and not ethics?
Sir, every
But
leader...
Deepti, what is your opinion? Leave that. What is your opinion about life in general? Between two people, what matters? What do you tell your sister or your friends, whoever is willing to listen to you? Will you tell them don't bother about all these ethics? Okay, we'll also tell others, but what matters is actually something different. And I'll tell you secretly one day. So you say like that, Deepti?
No, not entirely.
It's not a UPSC interview, remember. We are not going to record and then show it to UPSC. Okay.
No, sir. I would say be ethical as much as possible, but don't be impractical.
Be ethical, but don't be impractical.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Personal safety, or especially if safety is concerned, or some things might matter a little more.
Be ethical, but be practical. Plus, be practical. So this is one issue. So should a nation go by ethics, then practical means power and self-interest. But why should nation be different from individuals? Or why do you say be practical? And tell me, what is to be ethical when it is not practical? Why do you say, for example, be ethical, but be practical? What is ethical when it is not practical? Why should you say this is ethical and then say it is not practical? What makes you think that this particular thing is ethical, but not practical? Rather, why don't you say that may not be ethical?
Sir, maybe sometimes when we stick to the value, it may not, the other person might not be valuing it, or
that's true. But what are those values that you should stick to? For example, take don't lie. Should we regard never tell a lie as a value? Or
It
should
is
we
a
say,
value, but sometimes it may not work.
so why don't you say that it is not a value all times? Why do you say it is a value but it doesn't work all times? Why don't you say don't lie is a value under appropriate conditions?
It may become too wide, sir. I mean,
It may become.
too wide. Like we may find too. If we don't consider
That
it
is
a
true.
value,
That is true. We may not know when to lie. We may not give clear guidelines. But why do you make don't lie as an absolute value and then say be practical? Why don't we say that try not to lie as far as possible? That can be a value. Or not
sir,
to lie, not lie unless under these circumstances. Why
sir,
don't we take
I
that as a value?
actually I believe that should be the value.
Thank you. And why don't you say that should be the value? There it ends.
Yes, sir, I do think that it is the value. But those exemptions should be very narrow. Like maybe it causes harm to you,
That
or
may
there should be a
be,
real reason.
but you are saying never to lie. If you are telling somebody never to lie, you are preaching something bad. Please take time.
Sir,
Just take time. Take time. I am saying somebody who says never to lie is preaching a vice. Because if followed, it harms the person who is following. So it cannot be a value, it cannot be a virtue. So it is immoral to say never lie. Values are the guidelines for intelligent negotiation with the world. Values are not the obstacles. Values are to bring harmony. So never, if somebody says never lie, he is teaching something immoral. Why do you say you are not practical? Say it is immoral. So the subject of ethics is to reflect on these things. Not that there are some values which you should follow, but actually the practical world is different. What makes these things as values? These are important because we cannot say these are the values and we should be moral. Before choosing to be moral, we should ask what are the values? We should be willing to say if we are following this, it leads to self-harm, then that is not a value. So you can't assume what you are told as values are values. You need to question. Because we are discussing what should be values and what can be regarded as values, and what are regarded as values, and how what are regarded as values may not be the values. So only when you assume that these values are final, then you say, okay, be practical. But when you don't assume those values are final and they have certain conditions, then you will think differently. So one needs to explore why certain things are regarded as values and maybe they should not be regarded. What Socrates held as valuable, people rejected. Socrates was not was rejecting social values. Society rejected his values. Dipti, what do you say now? Tell me, am I with you, or you are with me, or we're different?
Yes, sir. I do agree that values need not be taken as absolute.
That's
But how do we create a standard out of? Can we standardize values in some way?
That is why you can say it is difficult to standardize. You can say that. But whatever. Okay, do you agree? For example, I am saying never lie is a vice. That is a statement I am making. Do you agree with it or not?
No, sir. I wouldn't say it is a vice, but I would say it is dangerous.
What is that?
It could be dangerous. Never lying could be dangerous. Or
that makes it wise.
Sir,
How do you eliminate UPSC bits? Whenever they say never, switch it, strike it off. You don't need to know the subject. Never. People have understood. If it says never, then that alternative is wrong.
Sir, but vice means immoral.
Yes, exactly.
Then never lying
is a vice.
Need not be immoral.
That is why I'm saying it is a vice.
Yes, sir, it is vice.
Thank you. What prevents you from saying that? So what did Satya Harishchandra follow? He followed a vice and ruined himself. So, going by Greek philosophy, virtues are those that contribute to happiness, harmony. And we need to find out what those virtues are. You need not accept what the society thinks as virtues or virtues. You can reject. As long as you understand, virtues seem to be playing an important role in person's well-being and also in collective life. Collective life is impossible. So you need to think afresh in a more fundamental way. Then you will ask, what is the problem of ethics between nations? Then you will think. On the other hand, if you think you should be ethical everywhere, then you will go about saying everywhere ethical. But Let me tell you, in reality, that's something different. No. If it is not working in reality, then that is not a value. So never lie is a vice. Then we should find out. What do you say, Deepthi? Or you say, we'll teach values for others, but we ourselves will be practical.
No, sir.
First approach or second approach?
First approach.
Question. When somebody says you are a bad girl, don't say, no, I am a good girl. First look at what is the definition of bad girl. If a bad girl is the one who is talking to boys, then you say, okay, then I would like to be a bad girl. Say that. What is important is what makes right behavior, not the words. So one needs to find out what is a virtue, what is a vice, and why are you calling it a virtue? Why are you calling it a vice? So why is it across nations, ethics are considered difficult? So it is that question which you should address. Otherwise, you just go about writing how people should be like that, like this, moral, honest, and then why world peace is needed. No. You try to address the problem. Okay, Karim, what do you think is the problem in following ethics in international relations?
Problem when it comes to security issues might be a problem.
What is the issue? The issue called anarchy. There is no central government. If somebody doesn't follow, there is nobody to whom one can complain. There are no world courts, world police, world armies. No communication between, no common values. So fear of security, threat. In such circumstances, self-interest plays a role. But then somebody proposed, you reduce that anarchy. How do you reduce the anarchy? International organizations, trade, communication, cultural exchange. So the problem that is regarded as something that makes ethics difficult is anarchy. So how can anarchy be overcome? Okay. This can be overcome. Kant proposed certain things. Okay. Which means you should address the problem. Problem between two nations is different from the problem between two individuals. Okay. Anurag, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So most of your answers did not address the problem. What was the problem? Why was this statement made? What is the context? Because usually it is said nations should pursue self-interest, should pursue power. Anything else is harmful. Then somebody is saying that it is not so, that there can be morals even among nations. So he has to prove why ethics can be important, can play a role, or relations can be ethical, even among nations. It means you should accept the argument, explain, and then what your response is. Gautam, is it clear? So please think about it. And when you are thinking, you get more points. For example, in international relations, power plays a role. Give examples. There can be a different relationship. Give examples. That's what you should learn, or I learned from Divya. I used to answer only in the end. I used to answer the total question. Whereas she splits, and for each split, she answers. I was shocked by that method. I didn't know that before. I would insist on examples. I was insisting on examples. You can watch that video on examples. But my examples were for the total. I didn't divide into segments and go about giving examples. Many times she didn't understand the total. That is what I understood from our conversation. But even though she didn't understand the total, she was able to write so much because she was responding to a part. So why ethics don't play a role? Examples. Where is ethics between Iran and USA, Afghanistan? It's power play. But can it? Why? How? Like that. Is it clear now? And please stick to 150, 150 plus only, because then you are meeting the real challenge. Okay, don't write 190, 180, no. Okay, try to give more content within the word limit, and very soon I'll be giving pen and paper assignments. We'll continue Padlet, but pen and paper assignments will start before we go for a 3-hour test. Okay, maybe after four or 5 classes, we can go for a 3-hour test. You are ready. But meanwhile, complete all your Padlet assignments if you have not done. Okay, watch all the videos if you have not attended. Complete everything. Okay.
Sir?
Just 1 second. So is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Deepti, please.
Sir, can you give contemporary 1 or 2 examples where ethics are causing problems, where sticking to ethics is not working out or something like that? For example, US-Iran, US is forcefully harassing Iran by giving sanctions and all that. Can you give 1 or 2 more examples, please?
Afghanistan.
Yes.
I don't know where to give examples of ethics. I don't understand. It's the examples of power. Power or unjust use of power or unintelligent use of power. Where is a nation trying to be ethical? And I'll think about it.
Okay.
Sir, accepting
just 1 second. Just 1 second. On the whole, there are positive movements. For example, that atrocities committed by others become more in news. That is a positive development. Okay. Fewer atrocities, lesser conflict, fewer civil wars, lesser violence. So those cases, those statistical data also I gave. So on the whole, world is improving. There is absolutely no doubt about this. Okay, at one time, even if thousands are killed, it won't make a news. But now it is. On the whole, world is improving. It is not that somebody is ethical. Okay. In fact, people are talking about ethical relations across nations, and that itself is a positive thing. Of course, why I'm finding it difficult to answer that question is that each nation thinks it is ethical and others have used power. If you ask Indians, they say, we have been very idealistic. Our Nehru was like that, like this. We made a bus trip to Pakistan, but then those people, each country has this absolutely skewed view that it is right and the other is wrong. So each country thinks that it is ethical and the other country is. But objectively judging is a different issue. Of course, not that whatever it says it is wrong. It is not like that. But often there are two sides and one country highlights where it is wrong rather than where the other is wrong, rather than where it itself is wrong. Okay. So, so we can't assume countries' positions as ethical and others' positions are unethical. Okay. Deepti.
That's also I raised hand for this question.
Because most people would say we have been idealistic, Nehru was idealistic. No, it's not at all like that. They're not far from being idealistic. Okay. So we can't assume that we are ethical and others are unethical. It is not like that. Okay. But what is the problem? The problem is that if you are ethical when there is no communication, no shared values, and nobody to complain to, then you may lose. That is why nations fear. That is the issue. Okay. And then the way democracy is working, pandering to prejudices. It is easy to say, it is easy to tell the people that somebody else is wrong and you vote for me, rather than say, we may be wrong and we should behave differently. No. What is the current government's strength? Other people know the truth, but they can't complain. They can't complain about treatment to Muslims because majority is Hindus. They cannot complain about anything about Pakistan or anything, how India may have been unfair, Kashmir. No, doesn't. It is about how you make majority feel. So politicians or intellectuals finding it difficult even to criticize. Okay. But the outside world knows that this is how democracies work. It is not that only India is working like this. These are the problems. Whereas within a context, if somebody says something, the other person will contest. Okay. But across nations, if you are saying anything positive about Pakistan, then people will question. Recently, praising Pakistani cricket is taken as a anti-India statement. It is like that. So the issue of anarchy. So Kant's solution to this is that how to overcome anarchy. And we can say anarchy is hugely getting down, reduced because of globalization. There is no doubt about it. So the world is becoming better and better, but this may not be enough because we have certain very serious challenges like climate change and nuclear issue. We'll discuss later. But otherwise, the world is improving. But there are new threats. Okay. Any question before we go to? We'll come back to this question. Okay. Anything else? We'll do utilitarianism now. Okay. Karim, you want to ask something?
So clear, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, who will summarize? Karim, will you summarize?
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
Mill or I mean,
Bentham. Bentham.
Bentham has come with the
What would Bentham say about a statement like this? Be ethical but practical. What would Bentham say?
Practical is ethical.
Exactly.
he has some calculations, so based on the net
No,
value only.
in this, if he is given this statement, what would Bentham say? It is not be ethical and practical. What is practical is ethical. That is, what maximizes pleasure, minimizes pain is ethical. There are no other issues. So he is questioning, like the way we did, why do you regard something as a virtue? Let us look at a fresh pleasure maximization and pain minimization. If something is contributing to pleasure and something contributing to minus, what contributes to pleasure? Not just your pleasure, but pleasure of people whom you are interacting and everybody. It is not your pleasure alone. So all pleasures considered, if it is plus, it is good. More than the minuses, that is pain. So he said virtues are not certain things which religion should give. Virtue is what is pleasurable. Vice is what is minus. So it is in that sense I said never lie is a vice. Bentham would say perfect. So you get these questions, you get this attitude. Of course, this is the way everybody thinks. Okay. But Bentham won't think like that. Philosophers won't think like that because they will ask what is ethical. Before you say be practical, but what is ethical? What makes you think that is ethical and now you want to be practical? But why do you think that is ethical? That is what philosopher asks. So Socrates might prove logically, never lie is a vice. He will ask, won't you lie in this situation? Won't you lie in this? So you are self-destructive. So that is not, he will rule it out. But Bentham is saying differently, that pluses and minus considered, what gives pleasure is a moral virtue. Okay, good. And what gives minus is pain, bad. There cannot be anything like practicality in this. So they are thinking in terms of what actually are virtues and ethical behavior and good. Usually people think there is already some certain things I like values and they should follow or not or something like that. Without thinking why should they be regarded as values and why should I regard them as values and what are the values in a situation like this. So Bentham is rejecting every other criteria and then saying plus minus. It can be legislation, it can be anything. Somebody asked capital punishment. Capital punishment is a huge minus to the person who is going to be hanged. But how about pluses to others? Think of pluses and minus and then see whether capital punishment is good or bad. Why should that huge minus be given? He will say. Okay. So he wants to maximize pleasure, minimize pain, and that includes minimization of pain of the offender also. So to stop rape, if you have to kill somebody, that may be wrong. Can you do it? Can you stop rape without killing? He won't think, oh my God, such an atrocious thing done. No, he should be killed. No. He shouldn't commit it next time. And others should not commit. So what do? Minimize the punishment because minimum minus and maximum plus. So pleasure and pain to decide what is moral. But remember, this is not pleasure and pain of an individual, pleasure and pain of the affected, all put together, without any moral considerations. Which means he is not going to follow predefined virtues and vices. He will have to find out what is the virtue and what is the vice. So virtues and vices are not predefined, predetermined. So he won't say be ethical and be practical. He would say, if it is not practical, don't call it ethical. If it is leading it to pain, it means it is wrong. But remember, it is not your pain alone. It is not your pain alone. You just say, I'll do whatever I want, and then that makes it ethical because it gives me pleasure. No, not like that. If you are getting pleasure without harming anybody, then it is good. But if you are getting pleasure when others' minus is huge, then that is bad.
Sir, ideally, is it possible to measure, sir? Because for each, everyone have their own perspective. So whatever sound to me as a higher pain or lower pain might not be for the others, something like that. So
that is true. That is a problem. But what do you regard as the pain? He didn't say that there should be, everybody should feel that way, but how is it felt? That is an issue. Just 1 second. That is just take time. So that can be questioned. So what do you do if same action is giving so much of minus to somebody and very little minus to somebody else? Okay. And also, can we calculate? But Bentham's main point is not that you can accurately calculate, but it is that how you think about it. In one step, he is just removing the previous ways of thinking. And second step, he is proposing a new way. With pleasure and pain as the standard. So it has to be exactly calculated is not the main point, but rather what you think is the criteria. Dam is displacing these many people. Okay, is dam good or bad? So what would be Bentham's approach?
calculate how many
Calculate environmental damage, flooding, okay, livelihood, and then calculate pluses, electricity, benefits, and then see whether plus and minus which is more. That is Bentham's approach. Okay. So just 1 second. So that is a way of thinking about moral issues. But your question that what happens if so many people are feeling bad? Suppose, for example, you criticize somebody. Out of criticism, you get some plus and somebody else is deeply offended. So does it mean you shouldn't criticize? For example, Socrates' action offended so many people. We don't know how much of plus Socrates got, but so many people got enough of minus and they wanted to kill him. So is it moral? So a person by name Mill, John Stuart Mill, said that you cannot simply go by calculations, you have to see the quality. Some pleasures are high, some pleasures are low. Okay. If you are hurt because somebody is criticizing you, then we shouldn't take it as a huge minus, because maybe you should learn to deal with criticism. Criticism is good. A religious community is hurt. So we don't know how much that a critic, how much plus that the critic gets, but so many people are hurt. So does it mean there should not be any criticism then? That's what Mill asked. Mill said no. So all pleasures and all pains are not the same. He said some pleasures are of higher, some pleasures are lower. Whereas to Bentham, all pleasures are same. So Mill said that dissatisfaction of Socrates is better than satisfaction of one foolish person, one contented stupid. Because pursuit of truth gives some dissatisfaction. But does it mean it is a bad activity? No. So Mill thought, but when Mill is saying that you can't, you have to classify pleasures into higher and lower pleasures, then in a way he is undermining pleasure pain thinking. But to the question, if you ask Mill, how can you say something is higher and something is lower? Mill's answer is that if somebody has both higher pleasure and lower pleasure, he is in a position to say which is a higher pleasure. Okay. Buddha left kingdom and pursued truth. So probably pursuit of truth is of higher pleasure than ruling. Like that. So those who have seen both the pleasures are the right people to say which is higher. So that was Mill's way of looking at it. But both of them think there is nothing higher than pleasure and pain. But remember, this is not about pleasure and pain of one person. This is about the totality. And you can consider a term, how long, how many people are involved, how intense. So Bentham thought you need to take into consideration all these variables and decide which is good and which is bad. Okay, Karim, what questions you have?
So in that case, we cannot arrive at a common set of values or something like that. So suppose, for example, we have constitution. So those are some values which all of us should be abide by, something like that. So that may not be possible with this kind of thought, right?
Utilitarians will say, Bentham would say, any constitutional value is going to increase the pleasure of people. For example, value of equality. So everybody to be treated equally, people would like it compared to discrimination. Freedom. Everybody wants freedom, but not when it is affecting others. And so go for clauses that would give pain to others. So you go for clauses to remove that kind of freedom that might give pain to others. So there are limitations to the freedom of speech, but freedom of speech itself is good. It is like that. So Bentham would say, in fact, Bentham was interested in drafting these legislations and bills. So Bentham would say, this is a kind that would help. That is what Bentham thought. He thought everything in terms of pleasure and pain, but pleasure and pain of the total group or a country, long term, short term, and all considered. So problem with that is, for example, if they said if girl is teasing a boy, boy is teasing a girl. So the boys get a plus and a girl minus. Suppose these pluses are much higher than this minus. Is boy's behavior moral? Okay. So that is to Bentham, and in this case, if you are considering only pluses and minuses, then boys may say this is a plus. But maybe you can look differently. For example, if teasing is allowed in a society, will it contribute to total plus or total minus? Isn't it? Not just these 4 boys and a girl, but total society. But maybe if you apply total society where these boys also have sisters and mothers, then maybe teasing is bad. It will come out to be like that. Isn't it? So one can say it can't be applied to this. One can be applied to total. Okay. But another way is to look in terms of rights. A girl should not be harassed like this. Okay. But then what is the sanctity of the right? Bentham rejected the sanctity of right. He rejected natural rights. Okay. So he felt that rights are things that the political system guarantees, and the political system should guarantee. Why so? Maximization of pleasure. Gautam, what do you say about this proposal? Is this clear?
Sir.
Is it clear? Did you follow the lesson?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a problem with the connectivity problem.
Problem with continuity?
No, sir.
No, are you able to listen? Are you able to follow the class?
I have a connectivity problem, sir.
Okay, connectivity problem. Okay, fine. Okay. I'll give you some questions on Bentham.
One small.
These are supposed to be application of Bentham's principles. Okay, please. Karim.
Sir, by seeing all the examples which you have given, so we can say that Bentham's theory can be applied on a whole. We cannot apply it to individual level.
One can say that.
Because ambiguity comes up, right? So based on the examples you gave, it will be ambiguous if we apply it individual level.
Sure. So let us take some of these questions. I'm reading out. You are the driver of a railway trolley. Okay. While going on the main track, you lose control over the brakes. You are a driver. While going on the main track, you lose control over the brakes. You notice 5 men on the main track and 1 man on the side track. Would you divert the trolley to the side track? Main track and a side track. 1 person and 4 here. You lost control. So will you go this way or will you go this way? Main track or side track?
Whoever or easily approach, and very near something like that.
Whoever? Is the question clear?
Yes, sir. So are they separated by same distance or how is it?
No. This is the main track. On main track, 4 people are there. On a side track, 1 person is there. If the trolley lost brakes, if you go on the main track as planned, 4 people will get killed. If you take a side track, 1 person will be killed. So what should you do?
Sidetrack.
Sidetrack. Why so?
Minimize the number of people who are killed.
Minimize the number of people who are going to be killed. Simple application. Yes or no? Okay. Next, but take this question. Suppose you are not the driver of the trolley, but an onlooker standing on the bridge there, and there is no side track. So there is no side track. You are not the driver. You are on the bridge, and there is but by pushing down one fat man from the bridge, you can stop the trolley by pushing down the fat man from a bridge and save the lives of 4 on the track. Will you do?
No.
Why? Is the question clear?
It is clear,
Okay.
but
A trolley lost the brakes, but you are not driving. You are on the top of a bridge. If you push a fat man, he will fall on the track and trolley will be stopped. And 4 people will be saved, but 1 man will die. Will you do it?
no, sir, we cannot put some unknown person in danger just that some other calamity or some disaster is going to happen. Is what my opinion is.
What is your answer, Anurag?
Yes, sir. I will do because practice number 2.
You mean
Means-
you will push a person on the
Yes.
track?
Yes, sir.
Please think about it. Do you actually do it?
Sir,
Just
it
1 second.
will-
Railway track is going to hit 4 people and 4 people will be killed. But does it mean you found one fat man on the bridge and push him so that you stop? Anurag, please think and tell me. Don't think what makes a good answer in the examination. You just tell me what you think.
by practicality, it is not possible.
Why?
Means,
Why it's not practical? It is not possible. You mean you can't push a man?
No, means it is not in means in values that I can push a man or other
I mean,
unknown
you
person.
can't imagine that you can push, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Then you say you will not push. That's all.
Yes.
But in a previous case, 1 man will be killed and 4 men will be killed. Otherwise, what will you do?
Sidetrack.
Huh? Sidetrack.
Yeah.
Okay, then what is the difference? I mean, is Anurag's answers agreeable? Deepti? Agreeable, right?
Yes, sir.
Why is it so then? Why is it after all, if you are pushing a fat man, you are saving 4 people and you are killing only 1 person. So
So that person,
just that means saving lives. Deepti?
that person is not obliged to sacrifice himself. If I am the fat man, I would not jump to save 4 people.
Okay. If you are not the fat man, you won't. If you are the fat man, you won't jump. Okay. But you are not the fat man.
I
are
would
somebody
think the
else.
same about the fat man also. He is under no obligation to save the 4 people.
Okay.
How can
Okay.
we pull him forcibly into the...
Okay. Okay. So you won't push him.
Yes, sir.
But what makes you, I mean, why are you so sure? What makes you think? What is your inner fear? Why do you? You don't, huh?
The difference in the way we are positioned. In the first case, we are like actively there in the trolley, and the second case we are passively just watching, so that conscience or categorical imperative, it works very actively in the first case. So we take it on ourselves if anybody is killed, but in the second case we just think that we are passively looking and it's not our responsibility.
Exactly. So it is not the number, it is about responsibility. In the first case, you are condemned to kill 1 or 4. So you kill 1, you are saving. But in the second case, you are not condemned. You are not in the picture. So in the second case, you become responsible for killing. In the first case, you are not responsible. You are there, somebody is killed, but you may not have been responsible because you didn't do it on your choice. Which means what is important is it is not simply the total outcome, but about your responsibility. In the first case, you are not, there was no choice for you. But in the second case, you are not involved. You are pushing somebody. And then you will think, like in Kant's categorical imperative, if somebody pushes me like this, will I consider a better society? Definitely not. You will be scared. Isn't it? So one can intuitively feel that, no, this is not right. Okay. Okay. In UPSC, one question, your friend is copying in the examination. Okay. They gave it in the sample paper. Will you report to the examiner that he is copying? Many students were harassed by this question. So your friend is copying in the examination. Will you report to the examiner? What is your answer, Anurag? Leave the exam answer. Just tell me whether you would do it or not.
Sir, again, the categorical imperative we apply, then what if all
no, okay, you just think about it. Will you tell her you won't?
Yes, sir.
You will tell the examiner.
Yes.
Okay. Karim, what's your answer?
So if they are making some sound, something like it, if it is just causing some disturbance,
It is not disturbing you. Why do you introduce various variables? No. He's copying very, very quietly. He's making less noise than the people who are not copying.
In that case, I won't say. As long as it is not disturbing me, so I won't be reporting.
Anurag, why will you complain?
Sir, if all do same,
but you are not placing yourself in the examination hall. You are not imagining, Anurag. You're just thinking. Do you mean to say that is exactly what you do? Don't you think your friend may have saved you in many different situations? Here, okay, the question says you have been very close to him. Sunil, what is your answer?
I won't tell.
You won't tell. Deepthi, what is your answer? Will you complain?
Most likely, I will not complain, sir.
You will not complain. Okay. But suppose you are the examiner. And your friend's child is copying. Then should you catch him or you shouldn't?
Yes, we should catch.
You should. Why? Because in the first case, you are not responsible. You are there as a student to write the examination, not to catch people. Whereas in the second case, you have accepted that as your role. Okay. Though in both the cases, it is punishing a student. So ethics is about what is your role, not just the outcome. But again, in a simple calculation of Bentham's calculus, this thing is not brought out. In Bentham calculus, pushing and also avoiding 4 is the same in terms of calculus. But if you apply different things, but like your role, things will come out. So earlier we said about rights of the girl, but now it is about the role. Okay, your friend copying, in terms of what is the loss to the society, it is the same. But you don't have any role in that. But you are the examiner, then it's your role. It is not the difference in outcomes. It is about your role in those outcomes, which make the action more likely. Whereas in Bentham's calculations, there is no such discussion on your role. Is it clear? Okay. Another question. You are a doctor and 5 people are wounded in an accident. By ignoring one person who is severely injured, you can save the remaining 4. If you don't ignore any, all 5 will die. What will you do?
Sir, could you please repeat once?
There is 1 patient versus 4 patients. Okay. 1 is severely injured and 4 minorly injured. Okay. If you attend to all 4, if you attend to 1 person, these 4 will die. Whereas if you attend to these 4 will live and 1 will die. What will you do? Attend to 4 or attend to 1?
Attend to 4.
Attend to 4. Isn't it? But another case, you are a doctor, 4 patients require transplants of various body parts. And a 5th patient requires only a minor operation. However, by taking the body parts of this 5th person, all 4 will be saved. So 4 body parts needed. And he has no problem. Yes, he requires only minor operation. But if you remove the body parts from him, these 4 will be saved. But he will die, of course. Will you do as a doctor?
No, sir.
Obviously. Why? Because it amounts to killing this person. Previously, it is a choice of attending to this person or other people. It's your choice. So whether you are actively involved in killing a person or not makes a difference. Railway track 1 versus 4, no brakes. You are involved in this or that, you have no choice. So you are minimizing. But pushing, actively involved in killing. And here, actively involved in killing by taking the parts. Okay. Now, this is one actual historical question. Okay, you can pay attention to this. In 1884, in the UK, 4 sailors in a lifeboat got stranded. 4 sailors in a lifeboat got stranded and all their food was exhausted. They ate nothing for days. This is a historical case. On the 9th day, the captain said that unless one person was killed, there are 4, unless one person was killed, all of them would die. Unless one person is killed, all of them would die. So the others decided that cabin boy, an orphan, should be killed. And he was killed and eaten by the remaining 3. When they landed, all of them were tried. Do you think what the captain and others did was wrong? This was an actual case. So let me explain the case. Just 1 second. 4 were there. They would die if they don't kill one of them. So they decided they would kill a boy, an orphan boy. And they survived. But once they reached the mainland, they were tried. So should they be punished or not? And if they are to be punished, why? Sunil, what is your answer?
This amounts to what majority believes they can do anything. So I won't go with this. They should be tried, they should be punished.
Okay, but what would be your ground for punishing them? Reason for punishing them? They should survive, right? I mean, will you punish on the ground that it is unlawful and illegal and or immoral to eat a human being? Cannibalism is unlawful or any other reason?
No, sir. That is because the person who was killed, it wasn't his willingness to.
Okay.
That way.
Okay.
So he didn't approve it that you can kill me and have me.
Okay. Okay. What should have been if you were a captain, then what would be the right way of settling the issue? What would be right and what would be moral way then?
So
Karim, you want to say something? Okay, Sunil, you can continue. Okay.
So is there a condition required that all of them, at least some should survive?
You don't think some should survive? You mean, don't you think some surviving is better than nobody is surviving?
Sir, yeah. So what I am thinking, like, what I'm thinking is, some of them will die early.
Not some. The proposal is you don't change the case. Within the case, you give the answer. All will die unless one of them is killed. Because that one is going to be food for others. All will die. All will die. Huh?
Make a toss.
Make a toss. And then?
Whoever is like cornered, then have.
So you think that would be a fair thing to do. But
I mean,
in this case, what did they do?
They didn't have his opinion and directly killed him.
Okay. Definitely. If you ask him opinion, will he say kill him, kill me? No. So it amounted to murdering somebody for food, like regular murder, maybe with less punishment. Okay. So killing one person to save 4 may be good, but who should be decided in a fair process. So that is what court said. So they were punished. They were punished not for deciding to kill one of them, but choosing a person without any logic.
Sir, could there have been any?
Again, just 1 second. Again, this is a case of total is the same, but then issue of injustice. I am giving cases where the totals are the same, but it comes out as an unjust case, immoral case. That is why this can be considered as a limitation of totaling of pleasure and pain. Because in all these cases, pleasures and pains put together are the same, but there is in some cases it is just, in some cases unjust. So maybe the sense of justice is not about pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain is one variable, there is no doubt about it. But sense of justice may not be entirely pleasure and pain only. Because for the same outcomes, we think that some are just and some are unjust. Why do we think like that? There is something else is going on. Isn't it? Okay, Devansh.
Sir, that court order of logically choosing somebody to kill, sir, how can we logically choose?
Lots can be anything. Lots is one way. But how did you choose that boy? That is the issue. They were in different situations. So they had the right to protect themselves. They had to right to maximize. But how do you maximize? Who has to suffer? Okay. So it appears that what is just and what is right and what is moral is not exactly maximization of pleasure and minimization of pain, but some other variable is coming. Isn't it so? Because in all these cases, it is pleasure, pain, somewhere it is the same. But still, in some cases, we think this is right. In some other cases, we think, no, it can't be. So then what is right? If it is not summation of pleasure and pain.
Justice should be visible, that it will happen.
That's true, but we are discussing what should be regarded as justice. Because everything is visible in what we are discussing. The case is very clear, but we instinctively feel that some cases are fine and some cases are not. When you trolley taking sideways and killing one is right, but pushing, no. Saving 4 instead of 1 is right, but taking 1 and body parts, no. Killing 1 is right, but killing 1 person without any logic is so. What is right seems to be something else then.
Fair and reason. So fair and reason.
Okay, fair and reason, but what is the criteria to reason? How do we? Because somebody said that what matters is pleasure and pain. These are the cases where pleasure and pain calculations give the same number, but some seem to be right and some don't seem to be right. Okay. So this is about Bentham's theory, and Mill did not reject utilitarianism. Okay, I posted another video on Mill on democracy, and he said pleasure and pain can be used for policy making, constitution at many places, but there is a problem. Because he couldn't find out how do you establish, how do you say that some rights are important, the girl should not be teased and things like that. So he said pleasures and pains are of different quality. So for example, if one is criticizing and a group is hurt cannot be minus and your criticism is a small plus and minus is more, and so it can't be like that. Okay, for example, then if you take thief versus the one who has the property, if thief getting it is plus and losing is minus, and suppose getting is plus compared to minus, does it mean theft is good? So you get into all kinds of cases like this. Okay. So it is in the context of Mill said you have to think about utilitarianism only in a broad sense. In a broad sense, you cannot take it at a micro level, even at a group level or at a short-term period. Okay, that's what he said. Okay, and then many other things he said about democracy. I think we already discussed in the context of Plato, right to criticism, why dissent is needed. Okay, Karim, you want to say something? Did you go through that video? You have some points to make. Mill on democracy.
Yes, Mill is a student of Bentham. He instead of rejecting complete utilitarianism, he proposed like higher
and lower
pressure and lower pressure. That is
what are his main ideas on democracy?
his main ideas on democracy are like how like today majoritarianism is the main criteria for anything from the elections to anything. So he was speaking about that, like individualism versus majoritarianism. So
Majority.
how can we protect that individualism, and how can we move towards the truth? How can this truth be established? So how can we make the truth survive from this majoritarianism?
Majoritarianism.
And moreover, he tried applying liberalism to women. So that is
Women
also one
issues.
women issues.
Fine. Okay. So we find them repetitive because we did them in when we were discussing Plato. Okay, Plato and Aristotle, Plato and Socrates. Okay. Okay, any questions?
Sir, I have a question from previous classes.
Please.
Sir, in the video you spoke about intellectual minorities. So just
Okay. What Mill was saying is okay. Mill was trying to address, thank you for raising these questions. Mill was trying to address how to get truth to the power, or how to reduce the gap between or reduce the barriers by which truth can get power. That is, that one way to look at it is that let graduates or intelligent people or intellectuals get more voting power instead of everybody having one vote. Or when they contest, to get them to elected, to get them to get the post, there can be lesser criteria. Okay, but how does Indian system try to bring merit to power? Councils at the state level, they are supposed to bring merit. Rajya Sabha is another merit, and meritorious civil service is another merit. Okay, so these are all the ways by which they are trying to bring merit to closer to power, because power is coming from opinion. Remember, Plato was not thinking about the contemporary systems. Okay, Plato was writing in a system where simply people vote and run and rule. Okay, it's just like you have seen in Socratic trial. But modern institutions have many different mechanisms. Rajya Sabha is one such mechanism. MLCs is one such mechanism. Merit-oriented bureaucracy is one such mechanism. Okay, and then law, constitution, judiciary. So all non-elected component, merit-based non-elected component and permanent ones will undermine opinion and make the system closer to truth. Okay. So it is not simply that people vote somebody and then he does whatever he can. It is not like that. Many checks and balances are created. But even after all this, the original criticism is still valid. Even after all this, you can see this. Finally, it is working the way it was not supposed to work. So that is why we still find original observations relevant. Okay, so these are all the ways by which you can think of democracy. Okay, you can take one Padlet question. Empowering truth. Is a challenge in a democracy. Is the most serious challenge. or how to empower truth is the most serious challenge in a democracy. How to empower truth is the most serious challenge in a democracy. Okay, you can think in terms of